All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
I am so excited to be joining remotely to start this show today. We go day to day and watch the dismantling of government and then, of course, the dismantling of the nation's basic freedoms. And there's no group I'd rather do it with than all of you. So excited to be here to kick things off. And it is the end of Mark's Madness. The commissioner of Mark's Madness, Albert, is here with the announcement as to what happened, who the winner is. Kim is here as well, and she, as you know, had a drop in Mark's Madness, the I Blame You drop, which many favored to go all the way. And indeed, I Blame You did go all the way to the finals. We'll have to see with the unveiling, which will be dramatic and powerful in a couple of minutes, exactly what did carry the entire tournament and what is crowned champion of Mark's Madness. So that's just moments from now. But the big news today is that filling in for me is the brilliant comedian, the riff master, and also a brilliant lawyer and a terrific mind on everything that's going on in America right now. And how about a warm Mark Thompson Show welcome as we finish up for JL Cauvin. How about it, everybody?
Yes. I thought Ezra Klein was co-hosting when you were doing that intro, but I guess it's me. So thank you.
Yeah. No, you are brilliant. You hide, what is it? You hide your light under a bushel or whatever it is. The line from the Bible. I'm extremely excited. It looks like a hotel room. People are saying that it's a bedtime. What? People are saying. I know. I'm sorry I didn't dress up. We've got to go to this art thing. And so it's very hot where I am, and so I'm just in a T-shirt. I mean, no disrespect, JL. JL, you are, I think you're a national treasure. I can't believe you're going to be...
Which nation, though? Because I don't think it's America.
You just finished, you just finished a huge gig in Toronto, and, Kim knows a lot about you because she actually researched the pronunciation of your last name, didn't you, Kim?
Yeah. You'd been saying Cauvin because it's C-A-U-V-I-N.
I think I've been saying Cauvin. Yeah, you're right.
Cauvin.
I've been saying it wrong.
It's Cauvin. Yeah.
It's Cauvin.
Yeah. There's a very French twist to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very disdainful.
Like you're a little snotty.
That last syllable in most French words has to have like disdain. So it's Cauvin. I've always said that it's very difficult having a name like Jean-Louis Cauvin because in America, whenever you correct somebody on the pronunciation of your name, you sound like a dick by default. Like, is Gene Lewis here? No, it's Jean-Louis Cauvin, swine. So
there is a quality of looking down your nose to that kind of correction. Also because it's French, as you say.
Yeah, and at 6'7", it's like God said, "Let there be condescension," and He made me a 6'7" man who looks down on people literally and metaphorically while correcting them on his French name.
It is true that JL is a 6'7" comic.
What?
Comes on stage, knows, as I say, he's been, graduated from elite institutions of learning, as I say, all of this history and the law and all of these great takes. But then, of course, the Trump impression, which is just Trump and
Never
Elon.
been anything
There's an Elon
like
impression that's really great. Yeah, it's pretty. We can maybe play a clip later. It really is. And I love that you went to Toronto because of the way that Trump has smack-talked the Canadians. How did that gig go?
It was a top 10 gig of my life. It's amazing that I can sell more tickets. And this goes to, I think, partly the nature of what I'm doing, but also, honestly, algorithm suppression, that I can go outside of my country on a Wednesday and sell more tickets than I do on a Saturday in a major American city, despite, the huge following. The great thing about the social media algorithms is, I do a show in Chicago, sell 60 tickets, don't get rebooked. And then I get home and 2 weeks later, people on social media are like, "You were in Chicago? Why didn't you tell me?" And I go, "Great. But Canada was phenomenal. I was at my best, and I think a truly great show. I was at my best, and the crowd was great. So there's that you're not in conflict with the crowd, but I was giving them the best I could, and they were giving me just a really great response. And I ate Tim Hortons 4 times in 33 hours or something. So I think I'm officially Canadian now.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely is part of that's a prereq for getting in, for sure.
And now I'll be in Ontario May 29th. They're having me at another club. So I'm hoping that this can become like a Canadian tour. But Ontario May 29th. If you miss Toronto or you live anywhere near Ontario, I keep saying Ontario, Ottawa. They all sound alike.
The other O
Ottawa,
place in Canada, yeah.
Ottawa, which is in Ontario, I
think.
think.
Growing food when you do the Trump impression, it's an outlet for them to express their displeasure.
No, well, what's great is that unlike, say, clubs in Long Island where people don't read your bio and show up and then complain to management when you do 5 minutes of Trump material because they're pro-free speech, First Amendment warriors. Yeah. They actually show up on purpose in Toronto. Like they were there. I believe 90% of the crowd was like my fans. So they knew what they were getting into. And so it was great. I was tempted to just walk around Toronto as Trump to drum up business. Fortunately, sales were good enough anyway. But then I thought somebody will throw something at me. Yeah, I'll be assaulted.
Yeah. People are well aware that you're not Trump, but but it is wild how one of the things that JL does is he riffs. He'll just go. He can go for that's. I think it's his superpower is his ability to riff from one thing and not lose character. All the Trump tics and all of the stuff that Trump does, the breathing, etc., the excuse me's, all of that.
Excuse me. For example, we have Mark here. Okay, he asked me to be a guest. Okay, normally when you ask somebody to be a guest, it's like, "Hello, sir. I wore my suit. I'm very honored to have you." Instead, he's in a hotel that looks like they don't even do room service, to be honest. And he's in a T-shirt. And he's got to do art. He's got to do art because his lady loves art. She says, "I love art." And he says, "Yes, I'll miss my show and disrespect the guests so we can do art." That's not how a leader acts. That's not how a proper host acts. I mean, I'm going to start calling this the Kim show because she's doing a lot stronger in terms of hospitality and in terms of just having her shit together. If I can use that, they don't like they say, "Sir, don't use that language, sir." Well, sometimes you have to call shit, and it's very disrespectful. So we're happy to be here, though. We're happy to be here. We've been to better places, but this is okay too. This is okay. We'll see what happens.
This magic that you do on stage is just terrific. We'll share a little bit from the Toronto gig. I'm so glad that the Canadian things I was really excited about hearing. I just felt like that potentially would be a great audience. They get it, and your stuff is just so perfect for that. So I'm really glad to hear that those gigs are going well. All right, listen, I won't dominate, I am going to get moving, but I do want to bring on the commissioner of March Madness, JL. As you know, we play drops off against each other. We run this concurrently with March Madness, and March Madness was a really hotly contested tournament this year. Commish, do you have some comments and, of course, the unveiling as to what the championship revealed?
Yeah, so for clarity, I did delete the post. I did get all the results before I did that, so I wanted this to be completely a surprise. I haven't updated the bracket, so we will do that live together to see who the actual winners are this year. So it's very exciting.
Remind me of the home audience. What was playing off against each other in this particular
the top
iteration?
The top two today were AOC Baby Girl and I Blame You.
Oh, girl, girl. Don't even play.
I blame you.
Those were our two drops. Yeah. So they made it to the finals. It was a long, grueling tournament, and it came to conclusion last night when I saw the results.
It was a pretty, it was super hotly contested. I know that's oftentimes said about these tournaments, but in reality, there were shifts on the leaderboard, and it seemed as though it was contested by a lot of people who've done well in March Madness before, and ultimately, Kim even was in the hunt, and the culture blaster, Michael Snyder, who's a regular contributor on Fridays, he led the leaderboard for a time. But then we got a note from one of our listener viewers, JL, who explained that if certain things happen, this is a few days ago, end of last week actually, he said a few things happen, Mark Thompson could actually win his own tournament, which would be both scandalous and delightful. So I wonder, Albert, if you can tell us who and what actually happened. Which one of the drops?
So out of the drops, it was actually very one-sided for the tournament, which is for the tournament ending, which is surprising. But with 70% of the vote.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Yeah.
Don't even play.
That's the one I voted for.
Wow.
I don't feel slighted in the least. AOC baby girl. Woo-hoo.
AOC baby girl wins the entire
Wow,
thing.
doing a Hitler salute in that picture, by the way.
Oh, girl, baby
Wow, no-
girl. Don't
No, the left
even
doesn't want to hear
play.
that. The left doesn't want to hear that, but
How
look at
dare
that
you?
pose.
How dare you? Exactly. Well, what does that mean, Albert? Who picked that? I mean, I remember, I think I picked the AOC baby girl to win it all, but
I think you did too. We're watching live here from the War Room, and I do have a breaking news. If I could find that.
Albert is the commissioner of Mark's Madness Jail.
A major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
These are the top 5, and to the surprise of no one, Mark
Oh
Thompson.
my
Oh my-
God.
You won your own contest. That's really a bad look, Mark. I have to say.
It's so bad, it's good.
Yeah.
Did you
pretty
really just
exciting.
do that?
Yeah.
The
Wow,
most corrupt Mark's Madness.
Hey.
Michael Snyder, our culture blaster, finishes second.
And
And,
not too far off in a very last-ditch effort, Kim McAllister.
Mm-hmm.
Kim McAllister.
Kim,
came in
look
sixth.
at you. You
Mhm.
came
In
up the
sixth
leaderboard. Yeah.
And this is my first bracket that I've ever played, so that's pretty good.
So it is pretty good. Michael Snyder, number 2. Jennifer Vesper, number 3. Andrea Heitman, number 4. And CBN Roro, number 5. And then Kim finishing 6th. Then Jane Oros, number 7. Georgia House, 8. Cranky Charcoal, 9. And Yvonne Birch, 10. That rounds it out. Daniel Martin, who won the tournament in the past, just falls out of the top 10. And
And those
And you can
prize
tour-
earnings are pretty, I mean, I can see why you'd cheat to win, Mark.
Do we have to send you
he's
the
referring,
wine now?
for those who are just listening, to the fact that there are nothing but zeros up under the prizes. So because we don't, well, now I don't have to worry about paying anybody. But I think the top, what did we say? Top 5 or top 3 are going to go to the meetup for
Top
free.
3 for the meetup.
Top 3 for the meetup. So
And then you're supposed to get the "Why are you yelling red?"
I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because
Send
it's
that to
me.
yourself?
It's me and Michael Snyder who are both attending the next meetup, and we're already going to be there. I will extend the offer to the following 3 top finishers: Jennifer Vesper, Andrea Heitman, and CBN Roro. I think that's only fair, since they're the folks who participated, came close, and since I won and I'm already going to the meetup, and Michael Snyder finished second, and he's already going to the meetup, we'll go. Can you log them, Albert, so we can reach out to them?
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
So please don't email at Mark saying that you are CBN Roro, please.
Yeah, that's right. We know who you are.
Claim your free
Okay.
prize.
The last thing I'll do, and then I'm going to truly say goodbye, is I wanted to update. There was question, my cat, Sherry Hughes, is asking, and I got several very nice emails. My cat is very sick, JL, and I love my cat very much, and we love our cat very much. She's a sweet little girl, and I had to go to the hospital yesterday, and I thought that might be like the last trip type thing, but we think she's still okay. She still has an appetite, and she's very sick, but you certainly don't want to end a life before you have to, And as long as she has an appetite and she's still grooming herself, that these are kind of cat things that there's still, maybe hope there that she can, be with us longer. And the one thing you don't want to do in these situations is keep the animal alive just for you. So like if she's in incredible pain, etc., I don't want. So these are all determinations we made yesterday. Long story to say, she's still with us, and thank you for all the reaching out that the audience did, because it was it's very heartwarming to know that so many of you care. So appreciate that. But that's the update, guys. I'm so excited to watch the show today. JL, can't thank you enough again.
Yeah.
And
Kim, thanks for the sad animal news to kick off
yeah,
the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
We do. There's no better way to say goodbye.
We start the show light. After last rites are given to several pets, we then get right into some fun stories.
I'm going to break in with some breaking death news later if it seems appropriate. So if you really get hot, I'll break back in with the latest. You're the best. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you. Congratulations to me for winning my own tournament.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Bye.
I'm Mark Thompson. yeah.
I won my own tournament.
Like he wins the golf course, right? At his last golf. We want to say thank you to Jane O, who slapped down $20 today. The show is crowdfunded, and we couldn't do it without you. So Jane, thank you for kicking it off with the 20. You can find us at themarkthompsonshow.com for the Patreon and the PayPal information. And huge thank you to Jane O. Thank you. All right. Let's talk about J.D. Vance, JL.
Yes. Definitely towards the bottom of my top 50 vice presidents list.
Which makes it delicious almost that when he picked up a trophy yesterday as his Ohio State players were celebrating at the White House, he couldn't quite hold it. In his defense, the top and the bottom of this trophy are not stuck together. It's on a pedestal, and he doesn't know this. Oh, and there's an audible gasp from the players as this trophy goes flying. It's pretty quick on the uptake, and he jumps forward to catch it.
Ohio State University football team met with President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance at the White House on Monday. Vance fumbled the base of the team's championship trophy, which fell apart into two pieces when he lifted it. Vance, who graduated from Ohio.
Yeah. He made a joke saying, he didn't want anyone after Ohio State to get the trophy, so I decided to break it. Kind of embarrassing. I mean,
I love it. I love it on so many levels. First of all, you'd think college, just in defense of J.D. Vance, which I rarely do, you don't expect a college football trophy to be like, oh, this flimsy thing, it just comes apart like that. But I love the fact that it was Ohio State also. So like, this is as fun a thing as he'll do as vice president. Like, my own college, they won. I'm welcoming the team. Oh, oops, viral moment. I'm an idiot. The only thing that would have been better is if the base had like injured the foot of the player standing there, just as like, and now you've crushed his dreams of the NFL. He can no longer walk. Not that I wish that on that guy. I only wish that sort of shame on J.D. Vance. But I'm sure Trump insulted him and was furious, at the spotlight being shifted from him. So I think that's a good day for America. It's a small thing, but that was a good day for America, or a good moment.
It's almost like this administration, no matter what happens, no matter what it is, it's like a clown mobile. They just can't not fumble something. And so it's like this, I don't know, this metaphor for everything else they're doing wrong, from the stock market and the tariffs and the deportations and it's like, breaking laws, trampling on the Constitution. They're like a walking joke. And so to have that happen is like it's a highlight of all of it.
There's a sort of final destination element, I think, where it's like they can't escape the horrible things that they're bringing about. So even at a nice moment, we're like, this should be fine. Oops, ruined. But I'm sure they think some left-wing group sabotaged the trophy just to make J.D. Vance look bad. I'm sure that'll be the Carolyn Levitt narrative soon.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. You're right, though. That guy did almost get nailed on the foot.
Yeah. And like I said, I wish nothing but the best for him. But for JD Vance, I wish he had broken his foot.
Oh man, there is a story that we had earlier this week and didn't get to, but it's this painting, this new painting of Trump, and it's of him with his fist in the air after he got the the grazing of the ear, and he rises from the behind the podium with his fist in the air, and it has now been moved into the foyer at the White House, and they had to do some bumping, so they got rid of George W. Bush painting, they moved it, and then they moved Obama across the hall, and then they put this in the grand spot, which doesn't quite fit, but and this is not a joke. This is in the White House now. Yeah, this is this dramatic image of him raising his right fist with some blood splattered across his face. So
I'm going to tell my grandkids that this is a picture of the 47th president at a Wall Street gay orgy.
Well, good, because I don't know.
Not that there's anything wrong with a gay orgy. I'm just saying I don't think he'd like it.
You got to do what you got to do.
I do. It is like, it does make me think of sort of, Christian Bale in American Psycho, sort of flexing in the mirror while having sex. This is kind of like, this makes me think that Trump is just, this is for his own arousal, I think. It's I can't take away the fact that it was an incredible moment. I know, but it was an incredible moment. I just think a person who nearly gets shot, who gets up and says, fight, fight. It feels like less of a courageous flex and more indicative of how narcissistic and brand obsessed he truly is. Like, I know this, I would be running for cover. I think I would have the normal human reaction.
Right.
Ronald Reagan, when he got shot, to me, just like Trump's presidency is sort of like a worse rebranding of everything Reagan did, from the Make America Great Again slogan to everything since, is when Reagan got shot, he was in the hospital and said, as they were bringing him into surgery, I hope these guys are Republicans. Now, that is a classy, great line while your life is in the balance. Trump's fight. I know people want to ascribe some kind of like, how incredible and tough was that? I genuinely think Donald Trump has almost an animal brain where branding and ego are never not at the center of it. So even in a moment where his life is under threat, I genuinely think after a 10 seconds to collect his breath, he was like, let me do this. And he's, and I know that's such a weird thing to say. And people would say, oh, that, yes, a left-wing guy has to always tear down Trump. And I go, I really do believe that. As creepy as that sounds, I think he is that self-obsessed and brand obsessed that, like, as soon as he caught his breath, he was like, yes, I can make something of this.
Right. Yeah. That was going through his head. Absolutely. They don't say who paid for this painting or who commissioned the painting, and it was moved into the White House without a big ceremony. They just kind of brought it in, hung it up, and here it is.
Well, it's sort of just kind of emblematic of the humility that Trump carries himself with. Like, he doesn't do things for the big fanfare. I think this was probably commissioned by him, paid for by the American taxpayer somehow. And now he stares at it as he, does whatever he does.
I really hope we don't have to have this thing up even after hoping he leaves office. After he leaves office, I hope this isn't like, stuck in the White House forever.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where it's like, I hope it's not, but it is tough to deny the fact that this, in 100 years, this will be, if you had 100 photos from the 21st century in America, this is one of those photos. Like, there's just no denying that. So who knows?
So they did something funny in Silicon Valley. Somebody hacked into the crosswalks in some city streets, Redwood City on the peninsula near San Francisco, Palo Alto, Menlo Park. The hackers got a little creative. They hacked into the audio. So when you push the button to cross the street, audio plays, and it's either Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, depending on where you push it and where you're standing. and they come on and they start talking to you. It's not really them. It's like deep fake voices,
Right.
like an impressionist, like yourself, like someone has done this. And people are now, I guess, flocking to Redwood City, Palo Alto, and Menlo Park to push the buttons at the crosswalk to hear this. And it's pretty good. I think we have some audio. Albert's got that for us. But the city staff had to go disable the audio until they could make repairs. And I don't know why, because I would want to hear this. Go ahead, Albert.
Wait. It's funny. I used to think he was just...
He's just what? We're saying it all the other times.
Hi, I'm Elon. Can we be friends? Will you be my friend? I'll give you a Cybertruck, I promise. Is this the hacking? Wait. It's funny. I used to think he was just...
He's just what? We're saying it all the other times.
I like the Mark Zuckerberg a little one better, although the offer of a free Cybertruck is pretty good. Then it was Mark Zuckerberg saying that AI was going to be shoved down our face, like it or not. So it's pretty good. I mean, it's pretty clever for hackers, I think, to do that.
Yeah, and it's harmless. It's kind of harmless fun, and I'm sure it violates some ordinance, but you bring up Zuckerberg. I heard the Musk. I did not hear the Zuckerberg, but I just finished that book, Careless People, that just came out. Like this woman who was high up at Facebook and Meta, and boy, oh boy, Zuckerberg, not a good guy. Really seems like a combo of Trump and Elon. It's like if you just took the most negative things about both people. So next president, who knows?
Who knows? A tech bro. Probably. That's what we're in for next.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have more to talk about, but we do have to get to our presidential historian and our political analyst who joins us every week. He is a former colleague from KGO Radio in San Francisco. He is John Rothman. Welcome, John, to the show. Yay. Hi.
Delighted to be with you. And JL, happy to join you as well.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
So John is kind enough to switch with David K. Johnston, who's usually on Tuesdays. And so we'll have David K. Johnston on the show tomorrow. Thanks, John, for switching. I appreciate it.
May I say for you anything?
Thank you. We have the first story to throw your way today. A judge is holding a hearing on this whole deportation case about this man who was mistakenly, administrative error, right, taken to this horrible prison in El Salvador, a mega prison. And the judge has said that the Trump administration needs to facilitate the returning of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The Supreme Court said he needs to facilitate it, and that they need to go back down to this other judge, for all the particulars. But Trump has actually said, he sat next to the president of El Salvador yesterday saying, this guy's not coming back and we don't want him back. And they have no intention of bringing him back. So this kind of sets up a constitutional crisis.
Not kind of. It does set up a constitutional crisis. And let's go further. He's now talking about deporting people who are American citizens.
Yes.
It's outrageous. Outrageous, and frankly, in a normal world, an impeachable offense.
JL, you went to law school. That's not legal, is it?
Top 100% of my class, FYI. No, it is not. It's sort of stunning, though, because it's definitely a constitutional crisis. I would argue, as I have, that, as soon as the Senate acquitted him in 2021, they abdicated their constitutional responsibility then. And Trump has been like a dormant constitutional crisis. And now it's active. Now it's come to the surface and he's actually doing things that challenge courts and rule of law directly. But the question, sadly, I think, and I can pose this to John, what he thinks, this isn't as much a scholarly question as it is, what if the country right now is in a place where, and I think this is what Trump is really testing, not really so much the guardrails of our institutions, he's now testing whether the people themselves care about these loftier ideals and these invisible rules that we've sort of governed ourselves by, or if they sort of go, illegal immigrant, who really cares? It won't happen to me. And I think that's the danger to me of like, are we going to just sort of, are enough people going to sort of accept this or not fight back the way they should to something like this? That it's too abstract for some people.
I agree. The real question, though, if I may be so bold, is whether the president of the United States will defy the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
What makes it a constitutional crisis is not the circumstance. It is the decision by the president not to comply with a court ruling. And that has profound implications, as, if I may add, does his decision to theoretically revoke the tax-exempt status of Harvard University, or to try to impose on Harvard University by suspending $2.2 billion in research grants. All of this, I believe, is not only unconstitutional, but I believe it's a disaster. And so we are now seeing Harvard University stand up, but I think we're going to see people standing up all over the country. Then the question becomes, will the courts stand up? And that brings us to two people on the Supreme Court who will be the ones who will ultimately matter: the Chief Justice, John Roberts, and Amy Coney Barrett. They are the two conservatives who, if they side with the three liberals, would overturn all of this. But then you have another question. You mentioned J.D. Vance earlier. And that is that J.D. Vance, among others, is saying, just ignore what the Supreme Court says. I worked for Richard Nixon, and I can tell you that if Richard Nixon had ignored the Supreme Court, the country would have been thrown into a crisis of unparalleled proportion. What is clear to me is that the country is not as aware, not as engaged, the point you just made so effectively. So my hope is that as he tests the very essence of the Constitution, that more and more people will just stand up and say no. Let me also add that the idea of deporting American citizens to a foreign country is abhorrent to every fiber of our constitutional being. And he should have been slapped down on that immediately. By the way, the other thing he did yesterday that was absolutely outrageous was to talk about the Ukraine, to talk about Ukraine as the aggressor. And this kind of nonsense, and it is nonsense, is dangerous to the fabric of our republic and to the constitutional basis on which we operate. I would remind you that, in fact, despite Marco Rubio's statement that the president has complete power as president on foreign policy, that is not true. The Congress passed the War Powers Act. The Congress has, over the years, approved a Panama Canal Treaty. The Senate did. No question about it. It is not an imperial presidency, and that is what must be opposed. And so I'm hoping that that will be the response of the American people in the midterm elections, and certainly the courts now.
Let's roll it back a little bit, because JL mentioned the moment about, did you say the impeachment was the moment where they decided not to impeach him?
Right, because the founders, they never thought, I don't think as flawed as they were in some ways, and I often joke that no matter when Donald Trump had been born, he would have been the worst person in the room. So if he was a founding father, he would have been advocating, splitting up families when selling slaves. I know that's kind of crude to put it, but I just think he would have always been the lowest character in the room. But they never thought that they had to put so many safeguards that a criminal would be elected president.
Nobody imagined a Donald Trump.
Right. And they gave the Senate at least the political power to end his career. And when they cowards didn't do that, I feel like that was almost, like I say, a dormant constitutional crisis in that, Trump is not president right now, but they've left the door open to him resuming the presidency as a lawless.
Remember, please, what Mitch McConnell said. He said he was voting no because he believed that in the end the courts would take care of Donald Trump. It was a failure, a systemic failure. And we can't go back in time. All we can do is move forward. I've made the recommendation to a number of people who are active in Washington that the House Judiciary Committee Democrats, because they have nothing to do now because they're a minority, should get together and formulate articles of impeachment that are absolutely solid, unimpeachable, if you will, so that when the circumstance is right and the Republicans are no longer in power, that this can be taken care of constitutionally. In the meantime, Donald Trump is going to continue to test, and we have to continue to respond, and courts have to be mobilized. And I hope the Supreme Court ultimately will rule. And as I say, keep your eye on Amy Coney Barrett and on Chief Justice Roberts.
So let me bring this up, though, because I think the moment for me was when the Supreme Court came down on the immunity ruling. And so we talk about, as John just mentioned, people standing up, the courts have to be strong, but what can they do? What can they do when
it's very simple. The immunity ruling, if you read it.
No, I mean, what did they do when they gave him immunity? Who, if he goes against the Supreme Court, what
he doesn't have immunity for that.
Is he going to be arrested? Like, who's going to enforce this?
He doesn't have immunity. You have to understand what they did was to talk about immunity in terms of certain presidential power.
Sure. Anything he does while in office, right? Anything he does related to the presidency, it's a scot-free.
Not necessarily. And that's my point. If you can prove that something was done in violation of the Constitution, he doesn't have immunity. And the court was very clear on that. So my hope is that at least as he continues to make these outrageous statements as they make their way through the court, but they're not going to go backward and reverse what they did on expanding presidential immunity, not granting it, but expanding it. What they are going to have to do is to rule on individual cases. And I do not believe the court will uphold his immunity. Now, I know that Thomas and Alito will always uphold it. But fortunately, we have some independent thinking on the court, and that's what we have to count on. I have to tell you, my emails light up whenever we talk about this. And on Facebook today, Tricia, who is an old friend, remarked about the only guarantee we now is the courts, and we have to count on the court. And I think Chief Justice Roberts is feeling the heat. Remember that the court is now called the Roberts Court. He knows that history will be the judge of whether he succeeded or failed. And I believe Amy Coney Barrett feels that same sense. So, if we continue to push this in this fashion, I believe that in the end, the court will rule 5-4. Then the question is, what will happen if Donald Trump ignores the court, which is the recommendation of Pam Bondi, the recommendation of J.D. Vance, the recommendation of too many people in the administration? Well, the answer is then we really are in the midst of more than a constitutional crisis. And we can't afford to be there. And I hope and I believe that the court ultimately will understand that.
I hope so. Yeah,
I have I think a more cynical view, unfortunately, which is if we hit that constitutional crisis moment, I think the problem we have is obviously when J.D. Vance said, some federal judge can't restrict the president's legitimate power. Now, legitimate is doing all the work in that sentence. But I think you have too many people in Congress on the right who would just sort of still go along. They wouldn't see
unless they see themselves facing defeat. And let me assure you, the most important single lesson of any politician is to survive, to be reelected. And if the Republicans in the Congress see the trend against Donald Trump, they will react accordingly. The same thing happened with Richard Nixon. Nixon wasn't removed because of Democrats. He was removed because of Republicans. So your real question is...
But these modern Republicans have missed many opportunities to have their... Was it Howard Baker? Was it which Republican?
Howard Baker asked, what did the president know and when did he know it?
Oh, but I mean, I forget which. I think maybe Goldwater met with him and was like, we don't have the votes.
Goldwater, as the Republican veteran, John Rhodes, who's the leader of the Republicans in the House, and Hugh Scott, who was the Senate leader for the Republicans, met with Nixon. But you understand what killed Nixon.
We've missed so many of those moments already where it seems like Republicans should have had a moment to say.
But I can't go backward. I can just go forward.
I know.
But the question becomes,
past this prologue would be my retort that I don't see.
My retort to you is that if that's the case, then America as we know it is finished.
Yes, and that's what I've been saying.
I refuse.
We've come to the same conclusion.
I refuse to accept that.
No, I understand, and I don't want to accept that, but I feel like it's now a much greater possibility than I thought 10 years ago. Certainly,
I agree. Yeah. But again, there will be restraints. Trump is pushing limits. I think he's gone beyond limits. I think this thing with Harvard University, which I mentioned, is a classic example. Can you imagine not only shutting down $2.2 billion in research funding, but also talking about pulling the tax-exempt status of a university? You want to rile up the country? That will do it, because most people understand the need of educational institutions to have independence.
You see it already, though. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, what I find so interesting about the MAGA movement and their relationship to maybe law enforcement and higher education is he basically wants like a consent decree for Harvard, where it's like, we get to monitor everything. We get to just dig into everything to make sure you're complying exactly with what we want. Yet when law enforcement somewhere, has a pattern of like physical violence and abuse, they're like, nothing to see here. We're abandoning those.
And that's why the American people will turn against Donald Trump.
I hope so.
Oh, I think it's inevitable. I think we will see in the election of 2026, Democrats making major gains. And I think you can already see it. We haven't even touched on the economy and the economic implications. You touch people's pocketbooks, you touch their 401ks. You're talking about a very personal thing. And there's no doubt in my mind, if you're just listening to what the Chinese are saying, that we are seeing it. And now the president is equivocating on his tariffs because he understands there's a backlash. If this president continues to do that, I believe his support base will recede. And that may mean 30% of the country supports him, even 40%. But I'd remind you, when Richard Nixon resigned, 40% of the country still supported Richard Nixon. So, I have to have faith in the American people. If I don't have faith in the American people and in the American democratic system, I believe we're screwed.
Yeah, I don't know how much Nixon did this whole intimidation of everyone, but it feels like
he tried.
There's a
there were income tax
fear of what Trump is doing. Like, he's scaring the crap out of people so that they have to bend a knee. And you see it with these law firms that are like, oh, Trump's coming after us. You see it with lawmakers. It's
my
like
former employer this week was one of the 5 big firms to capitulate. And I said, well, when they fired me and my great Trump impression, that was obviously just to please Trump and not because of my substandard work product.
Or your humor.
But he's got his fingers in every pie, trying to control, what happens at universities, as you mentioned, with Harvard and others, trying to control what happens with immigration. He's scaring the crap out of American citizens who now, with threats of being deported, not like I'm a criminal, but who now decides who's a criminal.
If you scare enough people, Kim,
right?
If you scare enough people, people react. And they're not reacting favorably. Take a look at Donald Trump's polling numbers. They're way down. He doesn't give a damn one way or the other. He can't run again. But the Republicans care. And that's the point. In 2026, if the Republicans face a massive defeat in the House and Senate because of Donald Trump, there will be a huge backlash. By the way, J.D. Vance, this is somebody else we've got to worry about. This man is a heartbeat away from a president who is 89 years old. And there are real concerns about 79 years old. I don't know.
His heart is 99 years old.
I thought he was in very good health. He just passed the physical.
And cognitive.
He did the cognitive test. He's telling us he's extra healthy.
Yeah, he may live to be 200.
Yeah.
But thank God he can't run for a third term.
Although he said he's going to try. They're meeting at the White House to try to get him to try, John Rothman.
No way. 22nd Amendment doesn't work. I'm happy to explain it to you, but the 22nd Amendment forbids it, and it just won't happen.
I don't know. I mean, what if he does? And you say he could go, if it goes against the Constitution, that somehow it's enforceable. I don't know.
Oh, no.
I mean,
22nd
this
Amendment
guy manages to squirrel his way through all kinds of things.
I'm sorry. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it may make good radio, but it's impossible. You cannot violate the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution, and there's no way for a repeal of the 22nd Amendment. And the only time we've ever had anything repealed was the Prohibition Amendment, and that was repealed in the wave of the Depression. So I don't see it. And even if it were repealed, you understand Harry Truman set the precedent that what the Constitution says when you are inaugurated is the rule. So even if they change the Constitution, which they won't, he would still not be eligible for a third term.
According to my pocket Constitution, which I got at Gettysburg, it says you can't be elected to a third term. It doesn't say you can't serve a third term.
Is it the 12th Amendment, though, that says if you're ineligible to be president, you can't be on a ticket?
You're exactly right, the 12th Amendment. But I'll give you the best example. This first came up in 1964 when Barry Goldwater was nominated for president. And James Reston suggested that Barry Goldwater take Dwight Eisenhower as his running mate, that Eisenhower would then be vice president. And if Goldwater resigned, Eisenhower would be president again. They talked about that with Reagan and Bush. In 88, there was talk of Reagan running for vice president with Bush. These are completely impractical suggestions. They're not things that are substantive. And you're right about the 12th Amendment. It would forbid his assuming the duties. So it's just not practical. And I hate wasting time on it because
I'm sorry.
I think
I have worries.
I know you have worries, and that's what Donald Trump wants you to do. He wants you to worry. We got to stay focused on what this guy is doing. And this business with Harvard, this business of suggesting the deportation of Americans, asking countries to build bigger prisons so we can send our people to those prisons, that would never hold up, by the way, in court. Never, not in a million years, even with a conservative Supreme Court. The deportation of American citizens, impossible.
And once you're there, you're never coming back either.
That's right. And so, I mean, I'm very practical. We have to oppose Donald Trump on these issues as emphatically as we can and not let the hyperbolic feeling that this could exaggerate be a part of our process. It has to be shot down immediately, and we have to work on the Republicans. I say constantly to people, it's not the Democrats I'm worried about, it's the Republicans. And we've got to work on that aspect of it.
One of the things that Trump also did is he was told by a federal judge, you can't block the AP, the Associated Press, from the White House. And he did anyway. Even after a federal judge's order, the AP yesterday goes to the White House to cover an event, and they're turned away.
And it was ruled by that judge unconstitutional.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, that is another nail in the coffin, so to speak. And I think a case will be made, has to be made. And you're absolutely right. What happened to the AP, because you and I rely on the AP for our news. It's absolutely unprecedented in American history.
There's a poll that was done, and because you talk about Republicans and how they need to rise up and see what's going on here. The Republicans apparently within the party are embracing the MAGA movement. The MAGA movement is growing within the Republican Party. According to a new poll done by NBC News, if that's to be believed, more than 70% of Republicans surveyed for this poll in March said they consider themselves part of the MAGA movement, and that is up from 55% of Republicans considering themselves part of the MAGA movement just before the November presidential election. So within the Republican Party, there's more MAGA activity. That doesn't sound like a party that's seeing the light, John.
If they start losing elections, the movement will collapse. And that's the goal. But you can talk to a Liz Cheney, for instance, who's been completely excluded from everything, or an Adam Kinzinger, or a Chris Christie. I mean, you can get down the list. And ultimately, there will be a response to this. And it's losing elections that will make the difference. The most important single thing to the Republican Party is to keep power. If they lose power, and the reason is because of Donald Trump, they'll do to Donald Trump what they did to Richard Nixon, they'll deep six him.
But what if I may, because I'm just thinking in terms of the midterms, I obviously cyclically, there's always there's usually a blowback of some kind. I know Biden didn't suffer the midterm losses they thought he would, but assuming there's a cyclical amount of change, but not the Obama 2010 or LBJ 66, where it's like this huge backlash of like 60 seats. And I think gerrymandering has sort of helped that in terms of reducing the chances that you have some historical backlash. What if it's only 20 seats? The Democrats take the House. They now have investigatory powers, but it's only like 20 seats change. So it's significant, but it's not this, mandate historically to say, oh my God.
Your perspective is absolutely correct, because it won't be overwhelming.
Right.
The trick is to get as much as you can.
Sure.
And then to see how it all sorts itself out.
But MAGA folks, I just have to say, MAGA folks that I either that I interact with willingly or unwillingly on social media, they have. I joked with Mark a few weeks ago that they discover nuance when it's their own side. So
of course,
if Joe Biden loses the House by 1 vote, they go, the people have spoken. And if Trump loses 20 seats, they'll start going, well, historically, 40 seats is really when things really indicate a national shift. So we're all on board still with Trump. I think that's maybe the danger, is that they spin it to themselves to maintain sort of their mission.
Your point is exactly
mindset.
correct. I have no argument with it. You're right. I mean, and that's part of the problem, that we have to really wake people up to it. But when people are affected economically, when they're affected academically, when it affects the pocketbook issues that really matter to the American people, I think it will make a huge difference. I mean, I hope it does anyway, because Donald Trump is a disaster.
Let's talk about the financial issues, because now the president of China, Xi Jinping, is apparently on a 5-day or a 5-country tour. He's going to the countries that are the hardest hit by the Trump tariff debacle. And Trump is saying that Xi is out to screw America. Meanwhile, we have him looking into pharmaceuticals and computer chips, and more tariffs are coming, and the trade war with China isn't slowing down, and the markets are still bouncing all over the place. I think when I last looked today, they were up, but you never know from moment to moment. And I was reading an article about this being the problem, that America used to be a place where it was kind of secure. Like, it's always a risk to put your money in the stock market. Yeah, but in America, you kind of had a better sense of safety for your money. And the investors don't have that with us anymore. And so if we lose that, we're losing something big.
And that's why the American people are going to react. If our average American who invests in the market or has his 401k or her savings, they're affected, they're impacted, believe me, there will be a backlash. And that is Donald Trump pushing the powers of the presidency too far. That's all I can say. I mean, there's no answer in our discussion, except every day when I wake up, Donald Trump has done something else to arouse the anger of another segment of the population. And that's what frankly, I hate to say it, but the American people are going to have to deal with that. And I hope they do.
And I do like the fact that Trump will point out, like, Xi is trying to screw me, and not to take China's side, but it's like, well, I mean, aren't you? It's pretty blatant. You're trying to screw them too. Not that I'm picking their side, but it's kind of odd. This is the gift of MAGA to me. It's we are the ultimate, strongest, best, and also we are completely victimized, and it's very sad to be us.
It's nonsense. So. The American people will figure it out. If your 401k vanishes, and the unemployment rate rises, and by the way, we haven't even talked about healthcare in this country and the impact that is happening now at Health and Human Services. You have measles outbreaks, or you have cutbacks in research if there's another pandemic. Believe me, the American people are not stupid. I don't believe they're stupid. And even the MAGA people.
Counterpoint, many of them are.
But not enough to be a majority. You can go back in time and you can take a look at mistakes the American people have made. And sometimes we correct them and sometimes we don't. But I can assure you of one thing. Donald Trump cannot fool the people on their pocketbook. People are going to take a hard look at that pocketbook and they're going to make a decision. And I'm hoping that there will be a reaction among many Americans on a whole host of issues. So I know it's hope, and I know we can't solve the problem here. But if we don't have faith in the American people to ultimately wake up from this cult, which is what it is, we're going to be in big trouble as a democracy, and the world will be in big trouble. Look, you're already seeing the Europeans are saying, well, if we can't count on America, we'll do it ourselves. Yeah. And look at the Ukrainians. Can you imagine Donald Trump standing in the Oval Office and blaming Ukraine for the war? I mean,
he just did it.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
It's ludicrous. And you can only, I think, maybe I'm wrong. I hope to God I'm not. I think you can only push the American people so far, and then all of a sudden there's a reaction. My experience in politics has been just that. Ultimately, there is a reaction by the American people, and that's what we have to hope for. If those of us who oppose Trump, there are people listening to the sound of our voices now who support Donald Trump, and we'll have to see how those people judge Trump as the economy sinks.
Can I just, in terms of, and I appreciate your faith in sort of the better nature of our angels and that people will wake up. And I think the pocketbook obviously has always been a good political indicator. I think what gives me, let's say we move past the MAGA movement and we come out relatively unscathed historically and things sort of settle back to some kind of normal. What bothers me about this is that we're still not going to be a country that can handle things like climate change. Like, in other words, if we,
you're right.
And that's the sort of thing when I say to you, like, I don't think I have faith in the American people. I think maybe we can move past the MAGA moment. That's important. But the other big issues that require long-term thinking, I think one of the few people who could probably turn this country to fight climate change is Donald Trump, because he has such a bizarre Rasputin-like hold on people. Like, he got people to start buying Tesla. They started buying electric vehicles because of him. I know, that's what I'm saying. Without somebody like that, I feel like we're never going to make the progress we need to make.
I got to tell you something. Maybe you're right. And maybe I should just give it up. Maybe I'll cancel my podcasts and stop appearing on the Mark Thompson Show.
You give it up, we're done for, John.
That's the whole point. Those of us who have a voice need to raise our voices. We need to educate people. I speak in as many places as I can, and I speak responsibly. And it's amazing to me the number of Trump people who come up to me and say, you're right, we made a mistake. That has to be the constant drumbeat message. And with climate change, I couldn't agree with you more. What's happening in the world is a disaster. You and I will not live long enough to see the full impact of what is happening. But I believe in the end, the American
That's a real downer. Jeez. Now I'm thinking about my death. What gives?
No, I'm talking about my immortality here, you know. The beauty of our business is we never go away. They can replay this for generations. And look, Trump digs coal. My God, doesn't he understand? But of course, the American people will wake up. They have to wake up. And we have to keep pushing them and keep alerting them and keep raising issues.
I have worries about, though, what happens, as JL mentioned, after this MAGA movement settles down or goes away or fades away, whatever. It's looking at this story about Xi going to Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia. He said he's looking forward to fighting the undercurrents of geopolitical camp-based confrontation and unilateralism and protectionism. He's putting together a coalition, basically, to fight America. I've heard that now
to fight Donald Trump and his tariffs. But it's not anti-American, and I think she said that.
Can you really make can you tear Trump apart from America? Because Americans voted for him, right? And let me just say this, you hear even in other countries where political leaders are wondering, can we trust America anymore?
You're right. And I always remind people, the Republican Party was traditionally a free trade party. Mm-hmm. When Ronald Reagan talked about his administration, he talked about the free trade zone between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. I believe that ultimately we will come to our senses, and that's what we have to keep emphasizing.
I guess
it doesn't work economically or politically.
Even if we come to our senses, the rest of the world isn't going to trust us anymore. How do you unspool that? After Trump goes away, how do you even that out?
Very simply. The world didn't trust Richard Nixon particularly. And when Nixon left, Ford came in, and there was a renewal of trust in America. One of the things, remember, the Republican Party grew in part out of the know-nothings, the disaffection of the 1850s, and yet the Republican Party transcended that. As a political historian, I can tell you that in the end, history turns around. And I don't think the Republican Party will control the MAGA movement. I'll even go so far as to say, if the economy has huge implications, if there is a collapse, the MAGA movement will be finished. Just like the Tea Party movement fell by the way. These individual movements, but the trick really, bottom line, is the Republican Party has to reclaim its soul. There's a wonderful novel called The Devil and Daniel Webster, in which Webster's defending someone who sold his soul. That's what's happened to the Republican Party. They sold their soul to Donald Trump, and the comeuppance will be in the elections that come in 2 years or in a year and a half and in 2028. At least I have to believe that. I have to explain to you, and I want you to understand this very clearly. My father was a German Jew. He left in 1936. He saw the handwriting on the wall. He understood the Germans were happy with Hitler. The trains ran on time. The economy was booming. The army was being rebuilt. And it took a devastating impact for the German people to understand what had happened. Now, we're not headed, I hope, for a world war. What we are headed for is a reckoning. And you have to believe, at least I have to believe, and I say it very personally, I have to believe that in the end, people wake up and they see the truth. And I believe that's what will happen to the Republican Party. And if you wonder why I'm focusing on the Republican Party, the only thing that can really stop Trump are the Republicans themselves. They are the ones who have to stand up. The Democrats have to be prepared. We have to find new leadership for the Democratic Party, but the Republican Party is going to have to find new leadership as well. And so the hope is, maybe I'm wrong, just as the isolationist movement died in the face of what happened in Europe in the 1930s, that the MAGA movement will die here in the United States based on the record that the MAGA movement has. Doesn't mean all MAGA Republicans will vanish. It doesn't mean there won't be a voice in the Republican Party. But let me explain to you, if I didn't have hope, I couldn't sit here with you. I couldn't teach the courses I teach, or give the lectures I give, or do the podcast that I do. I have to believe that in the end, the American people will come to their senses. Our job, as I see it, and the reason why I volunteer on the Mark Thompson program once a week, is that I'm hoping that my voice will resonate in some way with the people who need to be broken from the Trump cult. And I've got to live my life on hope. I won't live my life in despair. I simply refuse to do that.
Yeah.
Well, Kim, I would say just briefly to represent despair in this discussion, I would just say I think what Europe and our allies look at just on this one particular topic of how will they trust us, I think they could have they would have been easy to trust us if we didn't reelect Trump. You know what I mean? Like this one aberration, we learned our lesson. The rest of the world was kind of like, wait, I didn't know this country was incapable of learning from its mistakes. So now if we get a Democrat in 2028 and maybe even a two-term Democrat, does that mean that 2032 is the year we come back with some lunatic?
I'm going to answer you very clearly. If you go back 20 years, who was president of the United States? Do you remember?
George W. Bush.
Exactly. And we then had Barack Obama. We had a renewal of spirit. And then we had Joe Biden, who I think will go down in history as a very good president, to be very honest with you. By the way, I haven't heard the news ticker yet, but my understanding is Biden gave his first major speech today. And I don't know what his content was or what he did. But look, it's very simple to me.
He was going to talk about Social Security, I believe.
Yeah, you can live in despair or you can live in hope. I prefer to live in hope. I prefer to believe that in the end, people come to their senses. I have to believe that. Otherwise, how do you go day to day?
Look at him.
I live in hope. I live in hope spare.
Hope spare. Let me, before we let you go, John Rothman.
What? You're letting me go?
No, I don't want to, but I wanted to bring this up because we've seen the deportations of these scholars that are here in America from other countries. And at Georgetown, they've arrested this person named Badar Khan Suri. And now there's 130 Jewish Georgetown members who are rising up saying that Trump is weaponizing the Jewish faith. We also saw, just, you mentioned your faith. We saw the arsonist at the governor's mansion with Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. So, which doesn't necessarily have to do with weaponizing Jewish faith. But I love that Jewish people are standing up for folks that maybe disagreed with them in the times of protest. And they're standing up for what's right as far as letting these people have the right to say it, even if they disagree with it.
Look, I gave a lecture when Trump first came up with this nonsense, in which I absolutely defended the ability of people who support Hamas to speak out. And I used as an example a friend of mine who was the national president of the Israel Students Association, a student at UC Berkeley, very outspoken in his views, a student on a student visa, who, by the way, went to school, but also worked to organize. Had he been expelled for his political views, the country would have risen up, at least the Jewish community would have. My attitude is, I don't mind if Hamas speaks out. I would rather have them speaking out so I know who they are. But the idea of removing people or using a cloak of anti-Semitism, fighting anti-Semitism, this is not a cloak of fighting anti-Semitism. This is a cloak of blasting Trump's own people, the people who supported, who oppose him. We cannot be confused by that. And just so you know this, JL, I've been very active in the Jewish community for over half a century. I was a leader in the Soviet Jewry movement and the pro-Israel community.
I've dated some Jewish women. I don't know if that means I was active in the Jewish community as well. But
I'm glad to see, if you'll pardon a bad pun, you injected yourself into the Jewish concerns. Forgive me for that. But I figured, what the hell, I ought to show that I have some sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want everyone to understand this very clearly. What Donald Trump is doing is antithetical to everything Jews believe. And I am delighted when Hamas speaks out, because if they didn't speak out, how would you know how hateful they are? I don't believe in banning political opponents. I believe in giving them plenty of room. When I was on KGO, I spent an evening with David Duke, the former grand muhaha of the Ku Klux Klan. And he used every anti-Semitic slur, every black slur. And people said, why are you doing that? And my answer was, because if you listen to them, if you understand the hate that they project, then you can deal with them. And when I hear Palestinian students and people on the left and the right saying, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Remember, the river is the Jordan, the sea is the Mediterranean, and everything in between is Israel. And the simple truth is, that's hatred, and it needs to be fought. But I don't like the Trump administration abusing and using the fact that there is a rise in Jew hatred. I won't call it anti-Semitism. Let's call it what it is, Jew hatred. The fact that they would use that as a cover for their political nefarious views is, to me, appalling. And I can say that as someone who is active in the Jewish community, who was once active in the Republican Party, who has been very active in the Democratic Party. I've been all over the place, and that I find extremely offensive. And may I say, 3 cheers for Harvard for standing up and telling Donald Trump to butt out, get out, because what he is doing now in terms of using this cover for the ability to control academia is absolutely ludicrous and needs to be fought, because, believe me, if he succeeds on this, America really is doomed. And so we've got to fight for it. We've got to fight for what America stands for, freedom of expression. I listened the other night to Norman Corwin's recording on the Bill of Rights. We hold these truths. It was made in 1939. It is a power, or 1941 rather, 1940-41, powerful statement about the Bill of Rights. That's what I embrace. The Bill of Rights in this country guarantees all of our individual liberties. And when you have a president of the United States who opposes the Bill of Rights, we've got a big problem. So we've got a battle for American democracy. This really is what Joe Biden said in one of his last major speeches to the American people, a battle for democracy. And I believe that with every fiber of my being. And as long as I have a voice, I'm going to speak out loudly. And to Trish, who emailed me the same thing today or on Facebook, she was absolutely right. We cannot be silent, and we will not be silent.
John Rothman, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Nice
we'll
to
see
meet
you next week. Back to Wednesday for you next week, sir.
See, I'm always being shuffled around. No
That's
consideration
right.
at all.
That's
My
it.
pleasure. Have a good one.
Bye, John Rothman. Thank you.
I like that, because with me on the show, we just got like kind of a Mark Thompson-esque baritone presence on the show. You know, mine is a little more nasally. He has that rich radio voice.
No, you know what I've learned about you? Because you look at your bio and it says you went to law school, but mostly it talks about your career as a comedian and you're doing impressions. You're a smart guy. Like, you're smart and funny. You're the full package, JL.
I really am. Thank you. I didn't want to have to say it myself.
Girl, baby, girl, don't even play.
We talked about this whole phenomenon of more MAGA members within the Republican Party growing, right? It went from 55% to 75% now of Republicans think that they're MAGA. But there's another poll that was done, and this is about independents that are turning away from Trump. And I think we have some video on this one, but yeah, let's listen. Thanks, Albert.
Focus in on independents here, and independents feel that Donald Trump has vacated the center of the electorate, catering to his base. What are we talking about? Well, let's talk about the overall net approval ratings. We're going to look at the worst ever at this point in a presidency. The old record among independents for the worst ever was Donald Trump back in 2016, a net approval rating of minus 16 points. Well, Donald Trump has broken his own record here. He now holds, in this particular term, the worst ever net approval rating at this point in a presidency among independents at, get this, minus 22 points. He is 22 points underwater with independents. That breaks the old record that belonged to Trump. He has set the new record. He is completely underwater with the center of the electorate, Kate Baldwin.
And this is overall. This is on all the issues.
Thanks, Albert.
Focus on specific.
So that, yeah. So while the MAGA within the Republican Party is growing, independents are backing away a little bit. Maybe John's right. Maybe there's a reason for hope.
You know, I didn't want to be rude. I really am the pessimism vote on this, because independents, I know they make up an increasing part of our electorate because they're so annoyed with both parties. And it's such a shortcut to seeming substantive, in my opinion, because the independents I know largely vote one way. Do you know what I mean? It's more like a brand of like, yeah, but I don't identify with either party. Have I voted Republican 12 straight times? Yes, but I'm better than you because I'm independent. To me, the idea of such a rapid, it's like, oh, you negative 22 points. Oh, what an incredible switch in 2 months. It's almost like, or 3 months. It's almost like, oh, you forgot who you were voting for or approving of. When you forgot the guy who you quickly disapproved of 5 years ago or 8 years ago, and the guy who did the coup attempt, and the guy who says racist things. You're shocked that 2 months into his new administration, he's terrible again. Like that. And I'm sorry, that's one of those things where, like, the average independent voter, I go, I get that they're important sort of as a data point, but as a block of people, I don't take them that seriously. I know you have to, because this is the country we live in, but like, if they can be swayed so quickly one way or the other, then they're not really reliable either way. You can't really placate them in some substantive way. That they won't swing again. If a Democrat gets in there and does like something they don't like, they go, oh, well, I didn't realize that. Yeah, I'm being excessively cynical right now, but it doesn't surprise me at all. I just sort of look at it and go, yeah, that's why we have Trump in office again, is because the independents swing so wildly. Like the idea that you didn't have a humongous negative opinion of Trump 3 months ago or 6 months ago is like baffling to me.
And that's the thing I was mentioning is that if that's the case, then how does the rest of the world ever trust us again to get it right? Because what we've done isn't just unleash Trump on ourselves. We've unleashed him on the world, as you can see with China going around trying to drum up support to go up against the American bully on tariffs, and the European Union now working together to man their own defense and spend more money on defense because they can't trust America. I worry about long-term effects, because I think what we have done as a country, not me personally, but us collectively, is we've set ourselves up for something that we're going to be trying to unravel for eons.
Yes. Yeah. We are like, people will say things like, and Bill Maher did it in his monologue last week, but where it's sort of, yeah, Trump may have made some good points. Maybe Europe did need to support their own defense more. But now we're going to lose so much leverage as well. Like there's like go out and fend for yourselves. Well, if they do fend for themselves, then we will probably lose friends. And I know that's not a reason to have some sort of codependent relationship with other nations, but it kind of is like that.
It's worked for the world order thus far, and now we've just, taken a shot at it.
And he views things, he views diplomacy and friendship as things to be abused and manipulated, plain and simple. Does it have to be a one-way friendship and a one-way support system? No. But friendship and allies are also not things that you're supposed to like bully, abuse, and take advantage of either, or else you will just lose the friendship at some point. And I think he doesn't seem to grasp that. He is a guy who's apparently, kind of charming in a 5-minute or 20-minute cocktail reception. He'll give you a compliment. He'll give you a big handshake. He'll tell somebody, look at this guy. Isn't this guy the best? I tell you, he's doing great things. He's doing such great. And you leave there going, hey, that was pretty cool. He seems like a good guy. Like he seems like that's a good energy.
As Bill Maher just did, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And any more than that, though, and you're like, this guy doesn't actually care about what I'm saying. He is kind of mean. He's pretty racist and sexist. It's like, and countries will view our country as that, and like I said, bringing him back into office, it's the fool me once, like fool me twice. It is that saying to a T. The world is going, how did they go back to him?
Right.
Everybody makes a mistake. He's certainly not the worst mistake any world power has ever made, but now to do it again is like, it's baffling.
I want to move toward this topic because it's the thumbnail of the show today, and I want to make sure we get to it. But this whole tariff thing and the pause on the tariffs for 90 days, there was a filing which showed that Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I don't know if there were other people that have filed that have also done this, but it showed that she bought between, and it must have been like a box you check on the form. She bought between 21,000 and 315,000 in stocks on April 8th and 9th, the day before and the day of Trump's tariff pause. This according to the New York Times. So out comes AOC swinging against Marjorie Taylor Greene. She appears on stage and she says, we saw Marjorie Taylor Greene buy on the dip. She says, as she was at a rally in Ohio with Bernie Sanders, she says, I've got one question for her. How much did you make? How much did you make off people's despair? How much did you make off that panic? How much did you make off that suffering? And it's another reason why she's renewing her call for a ban on lawmakers trading individual stocks because of this disclosure filing. So did they do this tariff thing to make a bundle of money? Is this some kind of insider trading financial fraud that we just saw play out on the world stage?
Just my guess, obviously, is all this is that it's both. Because Trump, to his credit, if I can say that, for 40 years, he's tariffs. He said it out of office. He does believe in tariffs as a weapon. Like that is just a tool. Like this is not something he's crafted recently to like play a game. Does that mean that you can't play games with tariffs? No, of course you can. And my only question is Trump doing this intentionally, or does he, Trump is the type of person who thinks insider trading is probably smart. Like, I think if you asked him, put him up to a lie detector, he'd probably be like, how stupid is it that insider trading is illegal? It is illegal, but I wouldn't have it legal. It's smart. If you make connections, half of business is connections and information. So if you can make the connections and get the information, you're smart. Just like not paying your taxes is smart, according to him. So I really believe it can be both. And the question is he doing it fully intentionally, or are the people around him sort of like, hey, we hear he's going to like go back on this. You might want to buy right now. And then it doesn't help when like 2 hours before he announces the tariffs are going away that he goes, now would be a great time to buy.
He said this. Yes.
And this is one of those things where, just like his first term, where if any of these things were said secretly, they're crimes. But because he announces his crimes publicly, they're not crimes anymore somehow, even though they kind of are. So I don't know how consciously complicit he is in this. I don't think it's 0%, but I don't know if it's like 50% and the people around him have already learned how to like game him and realize he'll be nervous about hearing about the bond market. So you know what, he's definitely going to back off. Or if, you know, so it's a combination. I don't think it's just 100%. I don't believe in tariffs. I think he absolutely believes in tariffs. And I don't think it's 100% like I'm going to use tariffs to manipulate the market completely. I think it's somewhere in between, but he does it out loud. He does it publicly. So therefore we go, oh, it can't be a crime if he does it publicly. and it like, because we're so used to people being ashamed and sneaky about crimes.
Mhm.
Donald Trump is more of a like, no, I think his theory is I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it because look, I'm doing it in public. How can it be criminal? Now, if I shot a guy in an alley where nobody's looking, that's obviously a crime because I look so guilty.
I think that with the stock thing, I worry as well as to whether anyone could be possibly held accountable for that. I don't think you can. He'll say, "Oh, I did it. It was tariffs. I did it as part of the office of the presidency. Immunity kicks into play here." So there's, he can make as much money as he wants in all this variety of ways that for anyone else would have been illegal and scandalous. And no one's really worried about how much money Trump made or Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene made. We're all thinking, oh my gosh, our 401ks are going down. Our college,
but I have I
actually
have a bunch of Trump. I have a bunch of Trump meme coins right now. So
oh, do you? Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I'm
you're
actually
good to go.
that is an incredible photo of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Who framed that up?
Wow.
I've never seen a microphone fit so seamlessly in a photo. That is bizarre. And Trump looks like the guy in a hotel who paid for all this to happen, and he's just enjoying the show.
God. What has happened here? I'm telling you.
But they should absolutely ban.
That's real.
They should ban, obviously, the individual trading. It's I'm a Nancy Pelosi fan, but that was one of those things where I was like, why do you get, I'm sorry, this idea of getting into public service, it's public service. You get a nice salary, you get good benefits.
Mhm.
Why does everybody have to be a millionaire or become more of a millionaire? Like why? Like
sure.
And I mean, like I say, I'm not I'm a proud Democrat. I'm not going to be one of those guys who's always lamenting how weak and we suck. Of course we have problems, but I also recognize pretty plainly the only hope this country has to return to normalcy and to help lots of people is the Democrats. And Nancy Pelosi, it's one of those things where you just go, like I asked this question of a lot of people, it's like, how rich do you need to be? You're 80 something, you've got a lot of money. What's the big deal? You're not admitting any guilt. It's let's get rid of this. Our public servants should start putting public service kind of at the forefront of their public servant job. It shouldn't be like a co-equal part of their job, enriching yourself and gaining power and helping people. That's my radical take on public service, that it should be public service.
Oh, it's that's amazing. I know it's what a concept. You mentioned Nancy Pelosi, and I reminded me of this story. Her husband Paul was attacked with a hammer.
Yes.
And I was reading yesterday that this attack on the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania with Governor Josh Shapiro, that the attacker allegedly intended to go after Governor Shapiro with a hammer as well. Right. It's like this is the new way to attack politicians, is to smack them with hammers.
Well, it's because of our radical left Second Amendment restrictions. They go with guns, but anti-constitutional governors. In fact, that's why I'm attacking governors with a hammer, because I don't like their stance on the Second Amendment. And I had read, it was said hammer in a lot of the things, but then it said that he had like a sledgehammer. And I was like, oh, that's a different order of hammer. That's
a big one.
That's some Thor action. But yeah, it's it's creepy times. I don't know if I would call it scary, but it's creepy. I mean, it's scary for obviously these people individually.
With your iron rod.
Yeah, smash it with your iron rod. That's what we say when we want you to click the like button here on the show. Smash it with your iron rod. But that's true. Smash it with your iron rod is totally applicable. What do you say?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, is it? I don't want to. I know we kind of touched on the Bukele and the Trump stuff at the beginning of our conversation with John Rothman, but I just wanted to pontificate for a couple of minutes.
Go
on that.
ahead.
That's cool.
Bring it on.
Because I just posted a video, but I figure I'm the guest host here. I can share this directly to the people of the Mark Thompson Show. But I think I had alluded to it with Mr. Professor. Is he Professor? Professor Rothman?
You could call
or is he
him
just
that,
a Mister? I'll go Mister until I
yeah.
get confirmation.
Yeah.
Mister is good enough.
Yeah.
But I do think that the problem with this country right now is what Trump is doing is sort of like the gist of his administration right now, plain and simple, is that immigrants are like less than, like they're not full. And I mean this, full people. They're not full, like forget citizens. They're obviously not citizens, but the Constitution enumerates several things where it's certain things applies to citizens, certain things apply to persons in the country. But whether you're a person or a citizen, there are some things the Constitution affords you, that just by being in this country, whether you do something good or something bad. And I think Trump's real thing seems to be that immigrants, and I believe, of course, I think your skin color has something to do with this, are less than. And I feel like the comparison I made today before coming on the show was to the Dred Scott decision, which was the sort of landmark shame of the Supreme Court, where they basically, cutting to the chase, were like, black people have no rights that white men need to kind of respect. Like this slave who made it to free territory, you don't have to respect his freedom. Give me a break. The end. That was one of the catalysts for the Civil War. And I look at Trump and the way he treats immigrants is like this kind of, I can ship you off to another country because you don't have any rights I have to respect. And I think it sounds hyperbolic at times for people who are aware of the Dred Scott decision, because you're comparing it to that. And I go, kind of, because and the question is, Trump has made his decision that immigrants are less than, that people of color, maybe not in the same way, are also less than. Yeah. And then the question becomes, do the American people sort of make a decision? And I didn't bring this up with our guest, but my thinking is really, this is something that Democrats, it's worth shutting down the government. It's worth, like, if this keeps going and he defies the Supreme Court, this is something, yes, it's not a pocketbook issue, but it is foundational to this country, that due process, respecting law, respecting courts, we either do or we don't. And if we don't, I think that's when Democrats would say, politics be damned. I don't care if the polling says, well, 61% of Americans say it's okay that the guy got deported to El Salvador, because there is a moment where you sort of say, above even the will of the people, you did not take an oath to the will of the people. You want to respect and enact the will of the people as best you can. But at the end of the day, the oath was to the Constitution. So for this country to stand, even a mob mentality, even if that's the Democrat, that's why we have some of the safeguards we have in this country. Federalist Papers, if you want to read that, I've read like 2 of them. But the point is, the mob mentality we have to be on guard for. That's why we don't have a complete democracy, because they wanted protections that minority rights could be protected. And if we are a country that if Democrats say this president is anti-constitutional, we have to stop, we now have to stop government to make sure we get this person back from El Salvador, because it's not about one person. This is about what this one person represents, and it's very scary and very bad, to put it in very simple Trumpian terms. And if the country, to Mr. Rothman's fear, says, boo, Democrats, boo, then we're done. And it's kind of one of those things where you go, well, let's see. We might as well find out, right? We might as well find out. Do we believe in the Constitution? Will we back up Democrats for fighting for the foundational things that they took an oath to preserve? Or are we a mob rule country where we say, we don't care about them, we don't care about that, my family, my neighborhood, my pocketbook, my safety, it ends there. And then we do have a very different country, and it's time for me to go to Canada and do shows permanently. But that's that's what I think is at stake with this potentially. And I think this is, as much as I enjoyed some of what Cory Booker said in his 25-hour filibuster, this would be a thing where I would expect every Democrat in the Senate to take turns. And you know what? Your 20 hours is up now.
Yeah.
And then we wrote, because if this can happen and stand, if this can stand, then we have to shut this administration down. And then if we find out that the American people are with it, that's great. We found our limit to Trumpism together, collectively. Mm-hmm. And if we find out that we're the minority and people are like, well, we're shutting down the government for this one guy, if we're that ignorant and selfish, then it's time to rethink everything about this country.
But it's not for one guy. I think that's the whole point.
Oh, I'm saying that's if people, but that's the thing. We have to communicate that it's more than that. But I think Donald Trump being reelected in and of itself, people kept saying, well, Kamala Harris running on democracy seemed to be a losing issue. That's terrifying. That's what I'm saying.
It is absolutely terrifying. Right. Yes, so I completely agree with you.
And people are like, that was kind of a loser issue. What? The foundation of our nation was a losing issue? Yeah. Wow. Cool country.
This is this is something that makes America America. This is a key core belief.
Cheese fries? No, I'm sorry.
We have seen, yes, cheese fries. We've seen Trump, I would argue, with Abrigo Garcia, basically disappear him. Mm-hmm. Things that happen in other countries where you're spirited away in the middle of the night, never to be seen again. That's what happened to this guy. And then Trump stood up and said, P.S., it could happen to you too, American citizens. If you commit a crime I don't like, you're out and back to El Salvador as well. So where is that point that you're talking about where people should stand up? Should we, the minute he spirited away Abrigo Garcia, should we all have gotten out of our chairs, marched out into the street and said, this will not stand? Is it the point where you have him, saying, oh, it could happen to American citizens too? Is that the point where we rise up and we say it won't stand? Where is that breaking point where Americans are absolutely not going to tolerate this happening in our country?
I was waiting for the White Lotus to be done, so I would have more free time to stand up for freedom and democracy. So now it's done. So I am available, is what I'm saying.
You're okay? Yeah.
You make a great point, which is like when this, I think what comforts some of us, and I'm probably guilty of this, is like, well, the courts will eventually decide. Now, this guy could be getting beat up or worse in a prison in El Salvador for no reason. And that's terrifying. And I also think watching the sort of Orwellian, not to use an overdone adjective, of the administration admit that it was a mistake, and then just kind of like a week later or days later go, no, actually, it's not a mistake, just because we realized how much trouble we got in saying we made a mistake. Right. So we're just going to say do-over, not a mistake. Is everything okay now? It's not a mistake. That's so creepy and terrible. And I think, I think obviously, I think you're right. If I'm being honest, I mean, maybe I'm being a little lazy. I think now is already the time to protest for this person and to let it be known, like focus it on this, make Trump, because maybe Trump's cynicism will work in our favor. He'll go, well, one guy is not worth all these protests. Get the one guy back. Like if it works on his brain to treat it like one guy's not worth the trouble, even though, of course, this isn't about one guy. To him, to the guy, it's certainly about one guy. To his family, it's certainly about one guy. But I think that now is already the time. And I think, there is an element of letting the courts do this quickly, but the Supreme Court already kind of issued a decision on it. So I think now would be the time for one person is too many. I agree. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm trying to kind of talk out of what does the average American who doesn't really care that much think? Because you have to somehow mobilize some of them. That's, I think, the tricky thing.
It's that moment, that old saying, I don't know, I forget who wrote it. I could look it up, but it's the, first they came for the union protesters, or first they came for the unionists, and then they came for this, then they came for then they came for me, right? I think if Trump were smart, he wouldn't have brought up, oh, by the way, it could happen to American citizens too. If he wanted to say it's just this guy, right? Or, oh, it's just the brown people who are here illegally. It's just the people that I'm trying to get your hate to shift toward.
Yeah.
I could see more people falling for that. But that he said twice, by the way, I'd like to do this to American citizens too. That should be everyone's key, that, oh yes, and then they came for me. That's the moment where you're like, no, he's not bright enough to pull the wool over our eyes for long enough until he gets there.
I think that's when Trump got elected again. I think I said to somebody, or I may have said it on a podcast, that the best weapon Democrats now have is Trump's inability to stop himself. Like he doesn't, it's like my dog going for a treat. Like no matter what you say, no matter, they're just going to keep, he has a sort of simple animal instinct to just keep going. I think he feels like staying static or something is like a loss. You're either gaining or you're losing. So I get a win, I got to get another win. I got to get another win. So he's sort of this insatiable hunger for validation keeps him pushing. So he'll never stop that's sort of the silver lining to Trump's madness, is that he'll eventually go too far. But it's like, how many people are going to get disappeared before you go, okay, he's gone too far now. We have 10 dead citizens in a foreign prison. Okay, he's gone too far. But
and this is the United States of America. And this, I mean, that you even said that in connection with our country.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm going to stop being shocked over it, but it's very hard.
My father, who was Haitian and left in the 60s when he was 31 years old. I remember he was alive. He passed away in 2017, but he was alive for the whole Trump campaign and Trump's election. And I remember him just kind of laughing, like a kind of like, yes, I've always been told how backwards my country is and how, oh, America is the greatest. And he was happy to be here. He had friends, he had a family, he worked, but he never lost his sort of, love for his native country. But America was like a workplace to him almost. Yes, I'll admit better opportunities here, of course, safer environment, of course. But he laughs at the Trump thing because it was such like schadenfreude of like, I've been told that this is the greatest country and that they look down upon countries who have dictators and have this. And it's always like, oh, that's so ridiculous, or you shouldn't have that. It's so bad. And they're willingly handing the government over to sort of a buffoon version of a dictator.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. That's Trump. That's what we're doing.
How about we do a little bit of news before we go to Jefferson Graham with Tech Tuesday? This is the portion where I read the story, and if you so choose, you can comment on it, but you don't have to if it doesn't speak to you in such a way.
Gotcha.
Okay? All right. Albert, let's hit it. We'll do some news on the Mark Thompson Show. On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. There is a court hearing scheduled today regarding a mistakenly deported Maryland man. As we just mentioned, a U.S. district judge is holding a hearing over the Trump administration's effort to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia back to the United States from El Salvador. There is no effort. They're not really making an effort. The judge ruled last week the Justice Department must provide daily updates on Abrego Garcia's status. It's unclear what recourse the judge may have in trying to influence the return of this man after El Salvador's president visited the White House yesterday and said he has no intention of freeing him.
Just two thoughts very briefly. Is it possible that because the man's name looks like Kilmore, that's why this whole thing started? Like Trump was like, the guy's name is Kilmore. We got to get him out of the country right now. He's killing more. And the other thing that's so pathetic here is that Trump, who's gone on bullying the world every which way he can since being reelected, is now he's been brought to heel by the president of El Salvador. He's powerless to negotiate or do anything with the president of El Salvador. That makes me just fear something bad has happened to this guy, because it seems like such an odd thing for both of them to be on the same page going, we're nothing. We're not doing anything. Absolutely not. Can't do it.
I've heard it said that if they do bring this guy back, that then he becomes some kind of symbol, and they don't want that. So maybe he's alive and sitting in this hellhole of a prison, but he's not coming back because they can't afford that as an optic.
Right. And if I'm in that prison, I think twice before attacking him. I go, wait, this guy has a chance to get out. He might be able to tell our story. So I hope there's nothing. I mean, it's terrifying, of course, but I hope, I know how the judges are going to rule in this. It's just a question of when we get to that critical moment where it's like the Trump administration has no choice but to do something, or we're in deep trouble as a country.
Yeah. Department of Homeland Security agents have detained another Columbia student. The lawyer for Moshen Madawi says their client was arrested and detained after attending his naturalization interview on Monday. The man is Palestinian. He's been a legal resident for the last 10 years and is set to graduate from Columbia next month. Was also accepted into their graduate school program. He's been an active participant and organizer of the pro-Palestinian demonstrations on Columbia's campus.
Yeah, I mean, the only school that's ever rejected me in my life was Columbia Law School, so I'm not weighing in on any Columbia issues.
More than $2 billion in grants to Harvard University frozen as the school refuses to accept the Trump administration's conditions to continue federal funding. Kind of like that Harvard's given him a finger. The White House claims those demands are aimed at addressing anti-Semitism on campus. They include auditing the viewpoints of students and faculty and punishing students who took part in these pro-Palestinian protests on campus last year. Harvard would rather not have the money, but they have a pretty big endowment, right?
Yeah, they do. That's what I've been told from women who've slept with it, that it's pretty big. But I think I would love, it would really make me happy. And I know this is me talking with other people's money, but if like a few billionaires got together, I'm talking like the big billionaires or 20 of them, and we're just like, why don't we just pool together and collectively donate $2 billion to Harvard?
Speaking of billionaires, Mark Zuckerberg is being questioned again in Meta's antitrust trial today. The company is facing accusations by the FTC of buying competing social media companies to create a monopoly. The FTC claims Meta has a monopoly in the personal social networking market, which it says involves connections with family and friends. Zuckerberg is arguing on the stand yesterday that Facebook is now more of a broad discovery entertainment space. That's the argument there.
Yeah, I certainly don't go to Facebook for any entertainment whatsoever. It's I think it'll be tough to prove, honestly, because there is still robust competition, but he did buy up, credit to Snapchat for not taking his offer because they represented sort of a rival. But I think he definitely wanted to be a monopoly. They all do, really. That's the whole point. But I don't know if they'll be able to prove it because there's other competitors and TikTok is technically like the #1 social media app. So how can you be, how can you convince a jury or a judge like, well, we're #2, but we dominate?
It'll be interesting to see now that Zuckerberg has bent a knee to Trump, if this antitrust suit kind of quietly fades away.
Oh, it's not. No, that's what's interesting is that Trump appointed a guy, not as maybe well known as Lena Khan in terms of the anti-tech, but he's I think when a right-wing guy is anti-tech, it's more about like, you've been hurting my political views, whereas the left wing is more like you're hurting society. So one of those is more noble in my opinion, but they both sides have sort of antagonism towards big tech. So I think Trump is kind of in this like, thank you for your money, and I'm going to enjoy still beating you with your money.
The director of Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, says he wishes that he could remove President Trump's cameo from that movie. In an interview with the San Francisco Chronicle, Chris Columbus said Trump's short role has become a curse and an albatross for him. He says he can't cut the scene, and if he did, he'd probably be sent out of the country. Did you have one? No. Okay.
No, that's it's pivotal part of the movie. I don't know. You'd gut the film. It's like saying I took Marlon Brando out of The Godfather. I don't know how you can do it.
Yeah, it's kind of part of that movie now. American Airlines passengers getting free in-flight Wi-Fi in 2026. The Dallas-based carrier announcing today that complimentary service will be offered on about 90% of its fleet starting in January. American noted its free Wi-Fi service will be sponsored by AT&T and available for members of its AA Advantage loyalty program. There's another reason to join. And yes.
No, that was just me going, okay, good to know.
Okay,
noted.
Yeah, good to know, yeah. And I don't know if you saw this video. There was a big earthquake yesterday in San Diego. They've now released video, the San Diego Zoo, showing this group of 5 elephants forming a circle During the magnitude 5.2 earthquake, the elephants at the Safari Park location near Escondido formed the circle designed to protect the herd and younger elephants during all this shaking. The zoo says all 5 elephants are safe and back to their regular routines. It's fascinating to watch them do this. They ran to the younger ones and then herded the younger ones in the middle of the circle, and then they all just stood there and protected their young. Fascinating. I don't think we have the video, but it's kind of moving.
I
slow.
rushed to find the video, and NBC has a terrible video player.
Oh.
Sorry.
Boo, NBC.
The next time I snort elephant tusk dust for virility, I'll feel very, very bad about it.
You'll feel extra protective. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Fresh beans. It's sourced from all organic farms. Mark says it's the best coffee that has ever gone past his lips. He's probably at the Coachella Valley coffee shop right now. I love the.
I'm having a cup of it right now. That's my very bad Mark impression.
The vanilla tea is amazing. They have all kinds of teas, though. The Moroccan mint, also another good flavor. Check it out. It's CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And just for being a Mark Thompson Show listener, you're going to get your 10% off when you put in Mark T, no spaces, Mark T in the code at checkout. You get your 10% off. And our thanks to the amazing Coachella Valley Coffee for the great products and for sponsoring the news. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash it with your iron rod. Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Everything is going extremely well.
Calling me a liar? Now what you call him?
You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Liar, liar, your pants are on fire!
Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir? It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
No.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
Do you have a secret now?
Doesn't anybody better weed?
100% effective. How about that?
Say what?
And this is their new home.
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke. I stand corrected.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
JL Cauvin here as well. And it is time for us to welcome Jefferson Graham to the show. He is a former technology writer for USA Today. He is the host of PhotoWalks TV on YouTube, and he joins us every week on Tech Tuesday to talk about the latest gadgets and technical innovation. It is Jefferson Graham, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
It's good. We try to get here every week, but we've been on the road a lot.
I know. Where were you last week?
Where was I last? Las Vegas. I was at
a
the
conference, right? Yeah.
NAB conference. I actually made 8 presentations there. So
What?
I was a busy little guy there.
What?
Yeah, talking about iPhone photography and all the fun things you can do with it.
Very cool. So what do you have for us this week, my friend?
Speaking of iPhone photography, speaking of tariffs, now's the time to buy before those tariffs go through. Now, they're on, they're not on. They're on, they're not on. Who knows what's happening? I know that when the new iPhones come out in the fall, they will cost more money. That is just a given. Whether there's a tariff or not, they will be more expensive. Prices of products are creeping up, and but the pre-existing things that are in the store now do not have the tariffs on them.
Well, we had the tariff, and then Trump said no. Then we had no tariffs on technology, and now we hear that we're going to have a semiconductor tariff, and that will apply to all of the electronic gadgets. So
we have no idea.
We don't know.
No idea what's going to happen next week, let alone this week.
We're in tariff limbo.
Okay, but we do know that, gosh, if you're a company and you think your product was not, was too cheap, now's the time to raise the price and get away with it, because everyone's expecting you. Whether that $1,100 top of the line iPhone is now $1,200 or $1,500, I don't think it's going to be $1,500, but I do think it'll be at least $50 to $100 more per item. And the phones that are in the store now do not have tariffs on them. The stores that are being sold used do not have the tariffs on them. Yeah, I just, in my newsletter, jeffersongraham.com, I've got a complete buyer's guide to Pixels and Galaxies and iPhones and which models you might want to get. I can't imagine what they could add to the new phone that will come out in the fall that would be so great that would make you say spend $2,000 instead of $1,100. So I think what they've got right now is really good.
Okay, so now's the time to buy, you're saying?
Now's the time to buy, and I always say wait till the fall. At this time of year, I always say just wait, but now I'm not. And the what do they call it? There's a store on Amazon. It's not called Replenished, but it's reused or something like that. Refurbished, but it's a different word actually. Okay. And I've got a box. It's right over there, and I wish I could read upside down, but I can't. Because I just bought the iPhone 15 Pro Max so that I could have another one because I'd never have enough phones. And I paid $800 for it. It would have been $1,500. So it was a very good price. Yeah. And it's what is it, a year and a half old? So the prices that the used sellers have are pretty good. Not so much the exact price, but you get more for it. You get more storage. But be sure to look for an unlocked phone, because buying a phone that's a Verizon phone or an AT&T phone, it really doesn't help you in any way, shape, or form. You get an unlocked phone and you can use it with any carrier.
Can I ask a question? Hi, I'm JL. I'm guest host.
Hi, JL. I love your Trump imitations. You're really good.
Thanks. I just bought a new computer today with the mindset of, well, let me get something now before things start. So was that smart, or should I have waited on a computer?
Well, first of all, I don't know what you bought.
I'm not telling you because I'm afraid if I tell you, you'll tell me now that I've sunk the money. You'll be like, well, that's a terrible computer and you should definitely not get that one.
I generally would think that anything you buy electronically right now is at your advantage, because whether that's a TV, whether that's a computer, whether that's a camera, whether that's a phone, it's all going to be more expensive.
Okay, great. I feel good now. Thank you.
I'm glad you. Now, will you tell me what you bought?
No, I'm just saying.
He doesn't want to be electronically judged.
I bought an HP computer because I'm a PC.
Oh no!
Yeah,
oh
exactly.
no! You got to be kidding me! That's horrible. I'm sure you'll do just fine.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. So buy the iPhone if you need it now. Does it ever get to a point? Are we so obsessed with our phones and our technology? Does it ever get to a point that it's going to get too expensive and we won't buy it? Or you think, regardless of tariffs, people are going to keep forking out the money to get the newest and the best?
I don't know about you, Kim, but my phone is by my side all day long, and it's chirping along, and I use it more than any other product. My wife, this morning, 4:30 in the morning, I looked over and she was reading her phone, and she'll be on it all day long. There is no device in my lifetime I've ever used as much as a phone. Many people have their TVs on. The TVs will be on for 3 hours. Not me, but in the average home, it's probably on for 3 to 4 hours. The phone is in use for more. So I would even say that $1,000 phone, 2,000, 3,000 is not out of the question. It's just that it's all artificial, and you're just looking for Trump. Yeah. So, but as far as worth it, I'm not good at math. You take 365 days and divide it into 1,000. I think it comes to 25 or 250 or something really small, less than that cup of coffee. One of the great cliches is it's less than a cup of coffee. And this may be it. I don't know, but I don't think anyway. I think that it's something that we all must have. And I did a piece 10 years ago where they predicted that phones were going to go away and we'd all be switching to glasses. It hasn't happened, and I don't see it happening in the next 10 years either.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how little you can function without your phone. I don't want to leave the house without it. I've had, and this is embarrassing to admit, I have had these moments where I'm using my phone for a specific purpose, like maybe there's a recipe on it, or something that I'm using it for something, and I can't look, I can't go to another website, like it's now a dedicated purpose, and I find myself looking for my phone. I'm clearly using it to do something, but because it's not like I'm not scrolling, I'm not checking, I'm like, where's the thing that's next to me that I get to use all the time? Psycho.
Yeah. And how would you go on the air if you weren't at home and you had to do the show somewhere else? You'd reach for the phone. It's such a part of our life. There's a whole bunch of things I've been doing where I could only do it on an app. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't read the question, but somebody's left the comment.
Heather says you couldn't pay me to wear those goofy glasses.
I have my Meta Ray-Ban glasses. They're pretty good, but they just look like regular glasses, and they have a video camera in it, and I get to shoot video in places where they tell me I'm not allowed to. So I like that. Do you want to talk about Instagram for a minute?
Please do. Let's do it.
I don't think I don't see how it's a monopoly that you're a company and you buy another brand and you build it bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know how that's illegal. I do think that if they took it away from Meta, that's a good thing for everybody. I think they've got enough users and they've got their hands in enough pies, but I don't see it illegal. The next hot thing can always come up, whether that be TikTok or in Google's case, ChatGPT. Google was the smartest guy and gal in the room until all of a sudden OpenAI came out and they're cleaning Google's clock. And they don't need any government intervention. They just came out of nowhere and they were smarter and more innovative and people flocked to it.
Yeah.
So that's my take.
We were just talking about Meta and the antitrust lawsuit against them just a few minutes ago. But it's interesting. When you were at the NAB conference, what was one of the coolest things you saw?
Oh, lighting. I mean, this is a show that it's very odd. Okay. I'm a camera geek, as you know. And so I was surrounded. Every person there was into what I was into. Cameras, f-stop, shutter speeds, lighting, computers, video editing, video software. It was unbelievable because I go to other conferences and it's TVs and it's toasters and it's cars and it's just everything. So everybody's interested in everything, but this was just so focused. So the showroom, the floor was all about cameras and lighting gear and teleprompters. I mean,
okay.
So the coolest thing I saw, okay, ready? It's a light that is foldable. It's a light that you can fold up and put in your pocket and take with me on the road for my next trip. A light that I can fold up. Think about that. Can you imagine? Yeah, cool. I can put a light in my pocket that's battery powered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thomas Edison.
Yeah, so I bought 3 of them. And by the way, my next trip, I'm not going to see you until mid-May. My next trip starts on Sunday, Route 66, Chicago to LA.
Oh, and wow.
I've got 3 weeks on the road of doing a whole series of video episodes from Route 60, from old Route 666.
So are you going to fly to Chicago and drive back to LA?
Yes, I'm renting a car in Chicago and driving back to LA. Next year is the 100th anniversary of Route 66.
You know what kind of car you're renting yet?
I don't know. I was
It has
going
to be a cool car. You can't just rent a sedan.
I was taking an electric car until I borrowed it and I took it to Las Vegas, and I had to charge it 6 times to get home.
Oh.
I don't know if either of you drive electric cars, but if you have an electric car and you charge it at home and you drive around town, not a problem.
Right.
Road tripping, not there yet.
All
So
right,
I'm
Jefferson
taking a
Graham.
gas car. Just think about driving through a lonely road and look, there's a gas station. No, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, usually 4, and many choices. And good luck finding lots of places to charge up with electricity.
Well, we'll miss you. Have a great trip.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing it. Jefferson Graham's Photo Walks TV YouTube series can be found right here on the old YouTube. And we look forward to seeing what you come up with on Route 66.
Chicago, St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City, looking mighty pretty. You'll see Amarillo. You know the song, don't you, Kim?
Yes, I know the song.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jefferson Graham.
Don't forget Winona.
I don't know that one.
Okay, it's part of the song.
Oh, I don't know. What is it? A city?
It's a tiny town in Arizona that is
Winona, Arizona.
It's extremely forgettable. Yeah. Winona Ryder was named after that name, as well. Winona Ryder and Winona Judd, both named after Don't Forget Winona.
Notable. Awesome. Thanks, Jefferson Graham. Have a good trip. Thanks for coming
see
by.
ya.
Nice meeting you.
Bye-bye. And so that's it. JL, we've come to the end.
Wow. I did it.
Know. You did. You absolutely did it. I don't get to have you back tomorrow. Mark Thompson's still gone. I'll be here along with David K. Johnston. He'll be joining me, but you're not going to, which, is kind of a bummer because I just started to, get into this whole relationship
I'm
forming
sorry.
here.
Wham,
like
bam, thank you, Mark Thompson Radio Show.
And you're out and in and out. Tell me again about your show in Canada.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, the one coming up, I have a show in Ontario, May 29th at 8 p.m. Would love to sell it out like the Toronto one. And May 2nd in Long Island. I'm in Belmore, Long Island for a big show. So jlcauvin.com. My calendar has the ticket links. Hope to see many of you at one of the shows.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. You're awesome. I hope that you'll come back and hang out with us again sometime.
Would love
and
to.
Here it is.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
And that's it. Thank you to everyone who's contributed to the show, who has participated. Ms. Organic, thank you for the $20, and thank you for the nice words as well. Have a good day, everyone. See you on the after party.
Thank you.